If anybody is opposed to that, feel free to take yourself off video. No feelings will be hurt. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this back up again. Can you all see this screen? Okay. So again, if you are a current COC funded organization, HUD funded organization, and you need information about your renewal, you are in the right place. If you are a new organization not receiving COC funding, you are also in the right place. All are welcome here. For those of you who have not met, my name is Heather Sheridan. I am the Chief of Homeless Services with Baltimore County Department of Housing and Community Development. And the purpose of our meeting today is to go through the highlights, the goals of the HUD NOFO application. I will say before we start, normally the NOFO, you guys have had collectively way more experience doing this, so I hope to learn from you all as well. So feel free to chime in if there's things I'm saying incorrectly, or you know, your experience can be beneficial to the larger group. But for those of you who've been through this, typically HUD gives about 90 days for the NOFO process for COCs to work with their providers, have providers submit applications, complete the collaborative application, and submit everything. Usually from start to finish, it's give or take 90 days, with the caveat that the tools HUD releases to complete the application sometimes come a little later. This year is a little bit more challenging than other years because they've given us just under 60 days. What I've heard, and again, you never know the full intentions behind things with HUD, but what I've heard is that they wanted to release this NOFO and have it be due by September 30th to kind of get everything in before the end of the federal fiscal year. So that may or may not be the case. The reality is that a deadline is what it is. The additional layer of challenge here is, let me see, Cynthia, if you could put yourself on mute, I would appreciate it. Okay, the additional challenge here is that there's actually two NOFOs. There was a new notice of funding announcement that was released for rural homelessness and unsheltered homelessness. And so, sorry guys, again, I have to keep telling you, ask you if you guys can put yourselves on mute. I can't mute you because I'm in presenter mode and I have nobody else to do that. So in the interest of time, Phyllis, Tinsley, and Cynthia, if you could please put yourselves
I'm on mute. Not on.
I'm on mute.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Sorry. So they've given us 60 days, and there's an additional NOFO that's out there. We, as Baltimore County, do have the ability to apply for the unsheltered NOFO. We do not meet the criteria for a rural NOFO, but it would be new money up to $4.5 million would be best case scenario that we could qualify for. And again, that is... Cynthia, I'm not sure if you're calling in twice, forgive me, but I'm still seeing your name popping up. I'm sorry to call folks out.
Sign out.
So that unsheltered NOFO is something that we're going to try to apply for, but that is due October 20th. So that time frame turnaround is pretty tight, and more to come on that. Today, we will just be focusing on the 2022 annual competition for the COC. And again, for those of you who have joined us within the last few minutes, I've just asked everyone to put your first, last name, and your organization name in the chat all in one message so we can keep track of everybody who's here. And I'll say it one final time, thank you everyone for making time, moving things around to be a part of this very last minute webinar. And because of the tight time frame, that is why we are here and had to cram this in. So thank you. So first and foremost, the overview. So this year, through the annual NOFO process, HUD will award approximately up to $2.8 billion nationally. I wish all of that was coming to Baltimore County, but it's not. So Baltimore County is eligible to apply for certain amounts. So we have a total amount, and within that total amount, we have our planning grant and 2 bonus projects that are optional. We have up to $172,000 for a COC bonus project, and we're going to get into the details of what it would require for that bonus. Up to $344,000 for a DV bonus project, and $103,000 for our planning grant. And our total award is about $2.8 million. So last year, all tier 1 projects were renewed automatically. So the pressure was there, but it wasn't quite the same pressure. We're close to that this year. So everything that we put in tier 1 is guaranteed-ish from HUD that they will renew funding for up to 95% of what we put into tier 1 of our annual renewal demand. So that amount, our annual renewal amount, is 2.7, as I said, and 95% of that is about 2.5. So as long as we don't completely miss the mark on requirements of what HUD is requiring, we should be able to have faith in those tier 1 projects. And again, the tiers and scoring, we're going to get into that as we go through these slides. Tier 2, what we put into tier 2 last year was a little bit different. Tier 2, some things got funded you didn't really know. This year, the amount that we can put into tier 2 is the difference between, and this is HUD speak, so just roll with me if you can, the difference between tier 1, so that 5% that wasn't included in what we put into tier 1, and the COC's annual renewal demand, and any amount available for the bonus project. So basically what that means is our tier 2 projects, the bonuses, if you're interested in applying for them, the total that we could get max is about $307,000. So the renewal and new projects are ranked together. And again, we're going to get into rating and ranking. If you are a new provider and this sounds like Greek to you, I'll give you some, and again, Phyllis, I think you're off mute again. So not sure how that happened, but the renewal and new projects are ranked together. So that means if you are a provider who's already receiving COC funding and you're coming in for renewal, you are going to be scored, and we have to score you against and use the same rating and ranking tool that new projects may come in with. So that's just an important piece of it. The planning grant is not part of the rating and ranking process. Now I did send a link in the email that I sent late Wednesday night that gives you access to the COC planning competition page. If you don't have that link, just Google HUD COC annual NOFO fiscal year 2022 and the information is all there. So all the resources that providers need to complete a new or renewal application, all are available on that page, as well as the instructions, the detailed instructions, a copy of the actual application, a sample copy so you can see the questions, information about how each question is going to be scored, what the requirements are for those questions. There's a lot of really good information there. I know you probably don't have countless hours to read all of that. So that's why we're having this meeting today to hit some of the high marks. So what is new this year in the NOFO? The newest piece is what I just talked about, is that consolidated application scoring criteria. So the criteria that is going to be used, some questions that were in last year have been removed. HUD does a lot of work to look at the questions that they ask from year to year, look at the overall scores on some of those questions, and if they did not word things properly or things were confusing, if everybody did poorly on a certain question, they will revise that question or remove it, and therefore update the scoring criteria based on that. So there's a greater emphasis in the scores this year on emphasis on racial equity, racial disparities, and addressing those racial disparities. There's also emphasis on addressing the needs of the LGBTQ plus population, individuals, and youth, and plans to address future infectious disease outbreaks in partnership with public health officials. So the NOFO last year had a lot of questions about how programs specifically were responding to COVID what they were doing to keep people safe, and you all did a phenomenal job on all of that. What they're really focusing on this year, and what you'll see in the bonus language, is partnerships with public health officials. Okay, so we've got some HUD policy priorities, and we still have some background noise, so just double check your mute if you can.
It's not on.
I know it's tough. I'm going to try to mute you, Phyllis, because that's the name I keep seeing coming up. And don't worry, it's all good. It's Friday. We're not going to stress about muting. Okay, and again, for those of you, if you're new, please go ahead and drop your name and your organization in the chat. There you are, Phyllis. Okay, all good. You're muted now, Phyllis. Thank you so much. So HUD policy priorities. What are they? And I just clicked out of something. Forgive me. Do y'all still see my screen? Give me a yes if you can. Yes. Thank you, Laura. Okay. HUD policy priorities. Some of these are no surprise. Some of these are every year. Some of these are a little bit new. So I'll go through some of these pretty quickly. So ending homelessness for all persons. Guess what, guys? We have to end homelessness. I know it's shocking, but that is a priority. So you need to identify, engage, and effectively serve all folks experiencing homelessness. We know this, right? We need to measure our performance. There is much more emphasis this year than ever before. Even pre-COVID, I think it's in alignment with pre-COVID priorities, but HUD is putting much more of the scoring points and emphasis in that scoring on our performance and our outcomes. You've got to measure your performance based on local data and what you put into HMIS. COCs need to partner with housing, healthcare, and creative and supportive service providers. We know these things, right? We know that this is all important, right? And COC should use local data to determine the characteristics of individuals and families with the highest needs. And we as a COC need to be setting priorities. Now, I will pause. This is HUD's priorities, and we want to do everything that we can. But as you all know, our COC has had some transition just within the last few months with our president and the staff on my team transitioning out, as well as the HUD TA and all the tremendous work that the work groups are doing to meet those 4 components of our HUD TA, our governance document, our standard operating procedures, our coordinated entry work, and our HUD system performance measures. So yes, we do need to do our best to meet these HUD priorities and the ones in the future slides, and we need to do our best to set our own priorities as a COC, but we will be writing in our narrative some context as to where we are as a COC and where we're going. So don't feel completely, what's the word? Knocked down by these HUD priorities if you feel like we haven't met them all and are doing them perfectly, because no COC has. So additional HUD priorities, using a housing first approach. We've talked about this. This is no surprise. One thing that you will be asked to do in your application, not only completing it in eSnaps, and again, we're going to talk about that. There are going to be a few supplemental questions, just narrative. I don't need you to write books and books and books because I don't have the staff to review them. But there will be some questions about how you as a program, new or renewal, are doing what you're doing to meet the requirements of housing first, how you prove that, and what you're doing to address racial disparities, and all these other HUD policy priorities. We also must be focusing on the unsheltered and reducing those unsheltered homeless numbers, and that's why HUD released that second NOFO targeted to funding unsheltered. Improving system performance. So before Jason left, I know that the data committee and Jason himself were doing a lot of work with you on the monthly activity reports, system performance measures. And you also may have noticed on the Roundtable website, the quarterly system performance measures by project type. That is a new tool that's been put up. So it has our goals, what HUD has as the goals for each project type for the system performance measures. I'm going to pause for a second, take yourself off mute. What is one system performance measure from HUD that we need to, that we're measured on? Does anybody want to throw one out? You can take yourself off mute. HMIS data, yes, Gabrielle, thank you. So HMIS data is where all the system performance measures are actually checked. That's the data they use to measure our performance. So returns to homelessness, income increases from start to exit are some HUD system performance measures. Length of stay, and the amount of time it takes people to get housed and that they stay housed. Those are some system performance measures. So you'll see in the NOFO when you review it, and these have not changed. The system performance measures were asked in each NOFO how we met them, and they're outlined in those applications. We also did a review of our score. Hopefully all of you were able to join us for that review of our score, our last COC meeting, so you can see how we've measured up. Our prior NOFO applications are posted on that Homeless Roundtable website. So again, improving system performance measures, and just a few more. HUD policy priorities also include improving assistance to LGBTQ individuals, including youth, racial equity, and making sure that we're understanding our disparities, like we talked about in our last COC meeting, understanding that Stella P data, and then what are we doing in each of our programs and across our COC to address those disparities. One example is the partners that you engage with to address those disparities that you see in your population that you're serving. So we definitely have a lot of opportunity there in the coming years. So we will be working on that. And then finally, another HUD policy priority is partnering with housing, health, and service agencies. So we're lucky that we have an outstanding partner in DSS and the Department of Health in our programs, but we also have opportunity as well to work with our hospitals and mental health crisis partners and things like that. So there's potential there for a bonus, but more work to do in the coming year. Engaging people with lived experience, and of course, increasing affordable housing. Those are the HUD priorities. So hopefully none of those were a surprise to you. And if you have questions about those, let me know. So our scoring, we can get into the scoring. So basically, we've got, in my email that I sent out this invite to, the dates are summarized in that email. They've changed just a bit, so I'm going to have to resend them out, but the dates are here. So over the next 45 days, September 30th is when this NOFO is due to HUD. There are some key deadlines that we all have to hit. First step is providers who are interested in applying for COC money. You're going to let us know. You're going to fill out an application. We're going to go through those steps. Then we have a rating and ranking committee. That's not new. We have that every year. We do need more volunteers for that, including folks with lived experience. And the people on that rating and ranking committee will review the applications submitted. They will score them. And that is what we use to decide this tiering piece, which projects go into which tier. It's based on scores. So again, going back to the tier 1, so 95% of our annual amount, our annual renewal amount that we can go for and ask needs to go into tier 1. So these are our top scoring projects, and we should hopefully get about 2.5 million in our tier 1 scoring this year if all goes well with our overall application. The remaining will need to go into tier 2. Now, this third bullet here is a little confusing, but basically what you need to know is what every year HUD does issue a scoring sheet that we can, a scoring tool that we can use their tool, or we can adapt our tool to match what their tool says we need to score on. So we use a tool. We are going to be using the same tool that we've used, but it will be revised a bit and made a little bit more simpler. But HUD, it's important for you all to know that HUD will award a point value to each new and renewal project application that's in tier 2. So if we put more projects in tier 2 than we have the funding for, HUD will be, well, I shouldn't say that. Whatever goes in our tier 2 is going to be compared to all other COCs tier 2s, and HUD does that scoring for us, right? It's a better way of saying it. So HUD will use a 100-point scale, and they want us to know transparency that when they are scoring all tier 2 projects, this is how they're going to score it. So up to half of those points will be in direct proportion to our score of our overall consolidated application. That just means we need to do well in our consolidated application so that it scores well enough so that we have a higher likelihood that our tier 2 projects will also be funded. The second thing is the next 40 points will be based on the COC's ranking of that project. So that goes back to what we send them. We have our tier 1 list, then we have a few projects in tier 2, hopefully. We might just have one, and that's fine too. Then they will determine our ranking, and that will go towards their score. And then the final 10 points is how the project demonstrates that it's low barrier and prioritizes rapid placement. A lot of information, collective breath. Okay, so next piece, renewal projects. So for those of you who are already getting COC funds, and you just need to come in for a renewal, I do want to emphasize that it's not a 100% guarantee that you're going to get renewed, because we have to score everything, all projects new included, against those renewals. Now, historically in Baltimore County, we have used the COC money to pay for our PSH, our permanent supportive housing. And you all may know better than I do, but I don't know if there's not always extra bonus money for new projects. That's one piece. And two, we may not have had new providers come in years past to possibly knock those existing PSH projects out of the competition. I say all that this to say is that, we may just get the same projects that come in for renewal. We may not get any new projects, and we'll score it accordingly. But if we do get new projects, they will be compared to the existing. So for your renewals, important to know, project applications are eligible for renewal if the current grant term expires during calendar year 2022. So all that means, some COC funded projects have different start dates. Some of you get your money directly from HUD, and you do still need to submit your application to us as the consolidated collaborative applicant, because we need to put everybody's application together and score it. But regardless of the end date of your current project, as long as it ends in calendar year 2022, this competition applies, to your renewal. You must participate in this application this competition to get it renewed. All renewals are for 1-year term, obviously, because we do a COC NOFO application every year. There's push for them to do it every 5 years or 3 years, but they've not moved to that yet. All applicants should closely review and renew project details, instructions, instructional guides, and funding announcements to assure that applications are completed correctly. Now, some of you are such experts in this already. You could do this with your eyes closed. You've already looked on HUD's website, and you saw this past Monday when they provided and posted the detailed instructions for renewal applicants. If you haven't found that yet, you can find all that information again in that link that I sent this initial email invite out on. All the information for our collaborative application, the consolidated application that we as the COC lead, DHCD, are submitting, as well as the individual provider applications. All that stuff is on that same link. Obviously, applications need to reference HUD policy priorities, but also talk about how you address them and how you met them. And if you didn't, it's okay to be honest about that as well. Renewal project requests will be evaluated both on the applicant's past COC grant performance and the renewal project application. So I know there's a few members of our grants team here on the call. One piece of this that HUD emphasizes, and you probably would agree with this, that if you're a project that has not spent all of your COC funds for many years, and that goes for us as well, DHCD as well as the collaborative applicant in getting that planning grant. If we've not fully spent our grants, it's going to impact our score asking for more money. That just makes logical sense. So it's important for you to know that that's a piece of this that is looked at by us and by HUD when we score those applications. We're almost to the end, guys, and then we'll be able to ask questions. So thank you for your patience. So our bonus project, like I mentioned, so there's a DV bonus. It's a little bit more complicated. We did go for the DV bonus last year. We did not get as much of the bonus money as we were hoping for, but we have been awarded DV bonus money in the past for our comparable coordinated entry system for our DV providers. So we've got DV bonus money, and then we just have COC bonus money, and that's up to $172,000. So If you're a new applicant or a renewal applicant and this is an opportunity for us to go for new money from HUD, we're accepting applications for permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing for households with multiple barriers that meet housing first requirements. So if we want to put in for a bonus application with HUD, we all know, you all tell me every meeting we have, that more permanent supportive housing is needed and rapid rehousing for households with more barriers is needed as well. So if you want to come in for a bonus application or bonus project, this is what we want. So you must meet eligibility threshold outlined in the NOFO, which just simply means go to those detailed instructions and read what is required by HUD. Some of the things we've already covered today, what's required by HUD to qualify for that. And there's a leveraging component as well. So this is not required. You get bonus points in the scoring. This is so confusing, guys. Bear with me. You get bonus points in the scoring of the bonus project if you're able to show that this PSH or rapid rehousing is working with housing and healthcare providers or resources, and that they're throwing money into the mix to leverage. It's not required, but if you can show that, great. If you can't show that and you still want to come in for the bonus, please be my guest. So I talked about rating and ranking. So again, I've said some of this already. I'll repeat it again. We do need just probably about 2 more volunteers for our rating and ranking. And again, I'll get through the time frame for rating and ranking so you know what you're signing up for. But our rating and ranking committee, it's a group of folks that will review all applications that come in and they will score them. It sounds like a lot. And for those of you who are on the rating and ranking committee, and if you're on this call today, during the Q&A, if you want to offer a few minutes to give perspective, how manageable is it to participate in our rating and ranking? Because we definitely do need a few more volunteers, including folks with lived experience. So all new and renewal projects will be reviewed and ranked by the rating and ranking committee. We've already talked about that. All projects will be assessed using a standardized scoring tool. As I said, we are going to update that tool. So I do want to mention too that new projects and renewal projects have different tools. Just to be fair, the questions are very similar, but there's a few extra questions. And again, we're going to post those tools once we revise them on the website so you can see them. As we get closer to the scoring time frame, you'll be able to see those scoring tools. We will require answers to questions in a supplemental addendum. So all that means is I'm asking you guys to log into eSnaps if you're doing a renewal or a new project. Next year, we're going to do this probably differently outside of eSnaps. But right now, in the interest of time and what you guys are used to, I need you to log in, create an account in eSnaps, and submit the application. For those of you who've done this before, the eSnaps application does not get at the heart of some of those HUD policy priorities. So you will also be asked, it's going to be a one-pager, maybe 4 to 5 questions of how you hit and met those HUD policy priorities. I'm going to ask all new and renewal applicants to complete those questions as well. So that's going to be the supplemental addendum. And like I said, the questions are going to just talk about, tell us how you meet the requirements of housing first. Tell us how you engage with those with lived experience in your program and how it informs your work, if applicable. Again, we're going to get better at this as the years come. Or how do you work to advance racial equity and the needs of the LGBT community? For those of you who were able to join the equal access training about 2 weeks ago, I think, hopefully you were able to join it. It was incredibly helpful, and it talked about how to address the needs of people in the LGBTQ community and how they present in our programs. That was recorded and it can be shared if you missed it. And finally, as part of the rating and ranking committee process, we need those 2 more volunteers. There is a match requirement. Many of you already know this. So all projects, new and renewal, must meet a match requirement to be eligible. HUD requires a minimum of 25% match on all grant funds except for the leasing costs. So you can't include leasing as your match. Match can be in kind, so it can be donations, or it can be cash from another project program. You cannot use HUD, COC, ESG, or ESG CV money as your match. I'm going to say that again. You cannot use HUD, ESG, or ESG CV money as your match. You can use state dollars, you can use county dollars, you can use donations as your 25% match of what you're totally asking for. Finally, rents and occupancy charges collected from participants. So if you're PSH, Permanent Supportive Housing, and you have clients who pay a portion of their income towards their rent, that cannot be considered, oh, it can be considered match. My apologies. Okay, so next steps and deadlines. There's a lot of information here. Some of this you already got in your email. So first step, meeting today. If you are interested in applying, so I know you guys need some time to talk to your board, to talk to one another. Are you going to go for a renewal or a new application? You need some time to review things. In my world, I would have preferred to have given you a month or two to do this. It's a quick turnaround. So by Monday, 8/29, so that's not next Monday, but the following by noon, I just need an email from each organization saying, yes, Heather, we're going to submit an application, an email of intent that you're going to apply for COC funds. Second deadline is the 31st of August. This is set by HUD by noon. All new and renewal project applications must be completed in eSnaps. I want to emphasize, eSnaps is we will submit the final applications in eSnaps, but I ask everybody not to submit your application, just draft it in eSnaps, fill out all the questions as well as the supplemental addendum, just those two pieces, the project application and the addendum of questions I'm going to give you guys. Put it into eSnaps and email me. You can print a PDF of your draft. So you need to print that, not print it, I say save it as a PDF and email it to me so we have it. And don't click submit in eSnaps. Just put it all in there, pull it out as a PDF, save it and send it to me. Now, if you've never accessed eSnaps, you have no idea what I'm talking about. This link right here is where you want to click and it walks you through how to use eSnaps, how to set up a username and password. I have asked 4 different experts, people that are smarter than me about this, can I create usernames and passwords for you guys? They told me no. You have to request it yourself as a provider. If you have an username and password and you don't remember your password, you can reset it yourself. That's pretty easy. So between September 1st and September 13th, the applications that you all submit, new and renewal, will be reviewed by our rating and ranking committee and scored no later than the 14th of September. Again, I did not set these deadlines, but in order for us to meet the following deadlines, we have to get it done by the 14th. Our final rating and ranking, the final list of rating and ranking, not individual provider scores. We are not going to post that on our website, but we do and we will post our tier 1 and tier 2, and we will email each individual provider if you have been included in tier 1 or if you've been included in tier 2. We will notify you by the 14th. Actually, it might be by the 15th. Then the 23rd, by the 23rd, that's when the consolidated application, that draft, and again, that application is about 108 pages. We'll be writing that and filling that out, and that draft will be submitted to our COC. I don't know, Darlene, if you're on this call, our COC executive committee, which is our vice president acting as our chair, and our secretary and some folks here at DHCD. They will see that that final consolidated application. They will take a vote to approve it, and our consolidated application will be posted on our website for all of you to review by the 27th. You have 2 days to raise a flag and say, hey, this is completely wrong. Hey, this is terrible. Hey, this is great. And I will be reaching out to each of you, as I did last year, for help on that narrative. And we have to get it into HUD by the 30th, but really, we really should submit it on the 29th, no later, because the 30th eSnaps is going to be slow as molasses. So again, here are our dates. There are 2 on here that are slightly different than what was in your email, so I will send this back out after this meeting. Just quickly, this is from the National Alliance to End Homelessness, and I have some links in the last slide here. If you are completely new to this NOFO, or if you just need some refresher in all of your free and spare time, of which I know none of you have, there's a lot of good resources online. But this pretty much sums it up, the do's and the don'ts. So there's all the good do's, right? In a perfect world, you start with the end in mind. We plan backwards. In a perfect world, we would have started this in May. We don't live in a perfect world. We reflect on our system and project performance before you get started. We're doing some of that stuff behind the scenes and pulling out data in Sage. We're reviewing our data. We're reading the NOFO. You have to read the NOFO. And inspect HUD's priorities and how you align with them. The things you don't want to do, don't dig into the application before you've had time to prepare. If you are submitting an application like I am on behalf of our whole COC, read the detailed instructions. Don't assume that what you're doing is working as well as it can. So one thing we will be doing this year too, once we get through these two NOFOs, is we will be debriefing with you all. So the questions that we're asking you about housing first and racial disparities in the LGBTQ community, if you've had some trouble addressing these things, we want to talk about how you're doing things and what we can do to support you to advance those areas. Don't plan to apply for funding if you're not sure how well your programs are performing. So if you yourself don't know your data, hopefully that's not the case, but I do want to mention too that yes, Jason, as you know, is no longer with us, but we do have a HMIS contractor, the ICA, the Institute for Community Initiatives and Alliances, excuse me. They've been really responsive so far to some of you who have needed things pulled, new users created in HMIS and things like that. They will be helping me pull data out and system performance measures out of HMIS. So we do have some support there. Don't think that we won't have that support, but hopefully you already know some of your data. Hopefully you know how to pull out your APRs, your annual performance reports out of HMIS. And my favorite last one, don't panic. I will admit I'm not panicked, but it's a little stressful. So if you're feeling that, I understand. Here's some helpful links for some HUD program competition. The National Alliance to End Homelessness is the entity that interprets all the HUD regs and applications. They've got some great trainings on their website. And they put out some really helpful guidance as well on these NOFOs, and that's the link for that. So I will be sharing these slides as soon as we get off here. So I do want to pause. I'm going to take a breath, and I welcome your questions.
Heather, this is
Yeah.
Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
Actually, while I have everybody on, I'm from Baltimore County Consumer Advisory Council for the Homeless. That's what I was trying to tell you in the chat.
Got it.
I have come across somebody has like anonymously called me. Well, not called, but text messaged me through, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, nextdoor.com, and it's for different communities. And the woman has come across a young individual that apparently is having some kind of physical abuse, domestic abuse with, I don't know if it's a father of a child or something of that nature. But in the meantime, this has been since last year. And I don't know what happened, but apparently have lost connection with the person. And yesterday they just mysteriously showed up on my phone.
Okay.
And lately the girl has been staying in a motel, and
Sharon,
the woman,
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I want to hear the rest of this story, but I will ask if I can reach out to you offline right after we jump off here. If you want to email me your phone number, I'll call you directly. Only because in the interest of time, and I already inconvenienced everybody on a Friday. I just want to focus on NOFO questions if that's okay.
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Well, I was just wondering, is there any way, or any organization that would help pay for like a couple days for like a motel stay or,
Yeah, we can brainstorm about that after this call for sure. I appreciate
okay.
you bringing it up. Yeah, I'm not sure if we have hotel money, but folks can absolutely call coordinated entry for sure. But thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
Any NOFO questions, guys? Yeah, I threw a lot of information at you guys.
Are you sending out the deck that you just went through?
Yes, I will as soon as we get off here.
Okay, wonderful. And I missed because I had a couple people go in and out. The ratings and ranking committee, what is the date of when we're gonna, you probably saw my email.
So I have seen your 3 emails, and I'm sorry I didn't
No, I
have a
didn't.
schedule yet. Part of
Okay.
it is we've lost a few folks. People have written me back and said they can't do it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so that's why I need volunteers. Um,
There's 2 days in September that I am going to be pretty much unreachable.
That's
So
okay.
so I just want to make sure it's not those 2 days, but
So I'm going to bring the slides up real quick, just as a reminder for time frame. So the dates that rating and ranking will be meeting, well, I shouldn't say we'll be meeting, but you'll have the applications, and you need to be scoring them is between the 1st and the 13th.
okay,
My goal was
that's
to
fine.
pull, and I'm glad you're bringing this up for anybody else who has the same question as you, Molly. My goal was to pull a quick meeting together next Monday or Tuesday of the current rating and ranking folks, but since folks have dropped off, I've not been able to do that quite yet. So probably will be a little later in next week that I'll pull that the prior rating and ranking folks together just to learn from you guys. So let's connect after this so I know those dates because you're a crucial piece of that puzzle.
Perfect. Yeah. And as long as it happens between the 1st and the 13th, it's just around the 17th.
Gotcha.
I'm going to be out of pocket for like 5 hours. And there's another day that I'm like,
You're allowed to be out of pocket for 5 hours. That's totally fine. Okay.
how many of us are ever out of pocket? For
I
5
know.
hours?
It's all good. I appreciate you being so thorough. Other questions? How many of you are ready to just throw it all away? No, just this is a lot. So if you're a renewal project, we need your applications. So don't be intimidated by this process. We're going to pull this across this finish line, y'all. We're going to do it. It's going to be all right. We're going to do it. It's not going to be perfect, but nothing in homelessness is. So if you have questions, I will do my very best. Cynthia and I are busier, as my grandmother used to say, than a one-armed paper hanger. I don't know if y'all know that reference. That's some southern talk right there. But we are busy responding as best as we can. So just your patience. If you call me or you text me, your patience with me is important. I will not be able to walk you through eSnaps. So I need you guys to use those links. I will not be able to walk you through the NOFO application and the questions as I normally would like to. So try your best to reach out to your partners in the same position if you have questions. If we need to pull another call together, I'm happy to do that, where we can pull the group back together and go through some questions. Happy to do that. I just don't want to promise I'll be able to answer the one-offs.
Heather, I have one quick question.
Yes, please.
In eSnaps, are we pushing renewal projects forward? Will someone at the county be able to do that? And will we create, if we decide to apply for a bonus project, do we create our own project in eSnaps?
Yes. So when you say push it forward, can you just say a little bit more about what you mean by that for the renewals?
So in some years past, we are able to see a project that we submitted from the previous year, and you can push all of it forward, including the dates, your narrative, the budget portions, and then you can edit from there.
Yes. So my understanding from the HUD, from the webinars that I've attended so far, is you can, they have a term for it, similar to what you're saying, where you kind of just use the same information and apply it to the next year. What I've understood is that is available to the providers to do themselves this year in the application. Obviously, you need to read back through it, make sure the numbers are relevant, update those things as needed, but that's not something that the consolidated or the the lead agency has to do. If you log into eSnaps and you're not seeing that you can do that, try to raise a flag as soon as you can. I've not been able to get HUD to, and I'm taking this off recording just in case. I've not been able to get